Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Forrest Walpole here, and welcome back to another live stream. Well, I think I've waited long enough to finally talk about something that I have talked about before on a community post, but I think I'm ready to talk about my full um, thoughts on a situation that came to me through somebody else that I was following on YouTube. So, I will start this conversation off by talking about how I came across what we're about to discuss here. I first found out about this situation through Rodmerism, where he was talking about something and then he ended his community post with, quote, by the way, I don't know if these were his exact words. Hey, Mr. Coconut, how you doing tonight? But I don't know if these were his exact words, but he basically said how there was another pedophile uh, out there right now, and so curiosity got the best of me. And I asked who it was, and he said the name of the person. So then I looked up, hey odd boy, how you doing tonight? So I looked up the situation at hand, and that's when I found out the whole details. And after the whole situation with a certain individual known as Wesley, you know who I'm saying when I say that name, probably. If you don't know who he is, I have made, I want to say, at least 3 different live streams of serious discussions in regard to him. And I'm not talking about him anymore after this sentence. But everybody knows what I'm thinking of here. Did I hear about the Grande Gamer? I don't know if I want to know because at this point I am talking about something entirely serious. But this is a serious conversation. This is a serious talk stream, though. So if you want to talk about it, we got something else to talk about. Oh, geez, here we go. Is it really? What?
Concerns as well
Okay,
as the
first of all, this video that I put up here is nothing to do with what we're talking about here. Really? Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. So let's see here. So, um. Okay, so we're. Okay, so here's the deal, alright? Alright, so I'm not paying attention to the chat right now because I was looking at some. I was trying to look something up on YouTube. Um, but I will say this much: I was actually wanting to talk about the person under the name of Rosie Girl. That was my main focus, but yeah. Um, but yeah. Hold on a second. What's going on in the chat here? Hold on a second. So, hold on. Actually, I should have Discord on this other phone here. I'm gonna go ahead and put this phone on charge real quick. Hold on. I accidentally pressed the button as I do that. Alright. So, I'm gonna go ahead and put this other phone on charge because I too do want to see this thing about this DM on Grande Gamer. But I should also point out, there is something that should be pointed out in regard to, now I'm not saying this to defend anybody, I'm saying this because I know how the internet works. Yeah, let's see, did she's caused controversy in the past when she used someone else to work without giving credit. When confronted about it, she cursed the person out instead. Oh, this is a lot worse, actually. I don't know if I know that some people have known about this, but this is a lot worse than just calling somebody out because because of them calling her out for a particular reason. No, this is a lot worse than that. So with Rosie Girl, I knew about at least maybe one or two controversial moments that the person behind the Rosie Girl account has done. This one not included. But the last one that I remember that she was involved in was apparently catfishing people, from what I remember. But also, she kind of, I don't know, I don't think she got quote unquote kicked out. She made an explanation video. All she did, say we should be grateful we had the chance to play with her when she had Smash Bros. And used the Bowser mod. Alright, so here's what happened. Alright, I want to say to you what happened on this occasion. The one that is probably going to break the camel's back. Alright? Like, it made no sense that wasn't even with the controversy. So here's this controversy, and this is the big one. And there's a reason why I brought up Leslie into this for that brief period that I did. Because Rosie Girl was involved in what I thought was quote unquote role play. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, role play is basically where at least two people, if not more than that, are involved in like making a story of some kind. Any kind, for that matter. In this case, Rosie Girl decided to make role play that is of the, if I'm going to be truthfully honest with you, the pornographic type. And I'm not kidding when I say that too. I found out about this through, like I said, Rodmerism. When he talked about that, and then I looked it up, and then there was like a 20-second video showing some screenshots of the DMs between her and at least two different people that may or may not have been in the same group chat. But she was being very detailed in these actions that she did under the role play. Only to find out at the last, if not second to last picture showing that one of the two people spoke up and said that one was, I believe, 15 and the other was 12. Take that in consideration. Just think about that for a second. I'm just going to state, no joke, I'm stating for the record that this is not Japan. This country is not Japan. This is the United States or any other country that does not have, for God knows what reason why Japan is like this, that has 12 years old being the age of consent. Yes, and I'm being serious. The age of consent in Japan is 12 years old. If you don't believe me, you can Google it. How do I know about this? Because somebody asked about it. And somebody literally asked, what's the age of consent in Japan? I don't know why and I don't know who. But I looked it up and then I was like, what the fuck? I don't understand 18, but 12? Get the fuck out of here. which is going to explain the whole thing that I'm about to go through with Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, and I'll get to that when I get to that in that game. But I'm speeding that up in a serious topic and not in a joking manner. Because I'm serious when I say, since this is the United States, or probably most other countries at this point, the age of consent is 18 years old. Even if, and this is a big thing for people for adults that should know this by now, but for the adults that somehow either don't know or forgot, she claimed she got hacked about a month ago on Discord. The video that was released has DMs on Discord, and maybe those DMs were when she was hacked. Well, actually, okay, alright. I wouldn't really say that's... Okay, you know what, honestly? Okay, so here's my thoughts on that, okay? I wouldn't hold it past any hacker trying to paint her in a negative light. Like, if somebody really had something against her, which I wouldn't be surprised if somebody did have anything against her at this point. At the same time, that would be a good defense for her. The only question is, was she hacked at that point in time, though? She did say she was hacked for a month, but the big question is, from what day to what day was she hacked? Did Rosie Girl ever say the time period she was hacked? Like the actual from date A to date B? Because if she hasn't, to me that's going to sound little bit of an excuse. Because she could just fall back on that and use that as the means to explain why what happened. Right? I think we can all agree with that. Now I'm not really saying she's right. I'm not saying that she didn't do it, but I'm also not saying that she did do it if that is the case. That being said, there is also like I said, while there is the possibility that she was hacked and somebody tried to frame her for the whole ordeal, at the same time, there is also the possibility that she was pretending to be hacked just to find something to hide behind. Because I feel like she never updated anyone on when she got her account back. See, if she don't give us an exact date and time, like the exact time from when she was hacked to when she got her account back, to me that's gonna be a questionable story. That being said, let's say for all intents and purposes that she was trying to follow something to use something as an excuse. To me, somebody getting hacked could be anybody's thing, like a reason or an excuse as to what happened. And also, you gotta also put into consideration, a little bit of consideration, if somebody was pretending to be here to begin with. Again, that's another thing. Now, I'm not saying these things to defend her. I'm not saying these things to defend Rosie Girl. I'm making every plausible situation in the book. Because if anybody has known me for as long as they have, they would know that I want to hear all sides of the story, right? I don't want to hear one side and instantly believe it, or the other side and instantly believe it. I want to hear both sides of the story, and if they have proof to explain, if they have proof to show for what they're saying, then that gives them a little bit of extra bonus points because that could potentially lead me to believe them. I'm not saying that I will believe them at that point in time, but it could potentially happen. Now, so there's 3 explanations behind it. You have the fact that she could have been hacked, like she said. She could have had somebody pretend to be her, or she could actually have done this whole ordeal. And if she has done it, I think she might as well just join Wesley in that bandwagon of people who are not welcome into my to my streams if that is the case. At least Wesley, I will say this much, and this is a small thing though. It's a small thing for him. At least he had the balls to admit he fucked up. The only problem with his situation was he kept making excuse after excuse after excuse. I would know this because I watched that one video that was like 3.5 minutes long, and I've made my points clear about on how he was repeating the same thing, with the exception of maybe one or two things in that video, over and over and over again. The only redeeming quality for him is at least he acknowledged he messed up. Has Rosie Girl said anything about the situation, or has she been basically doing what Wesley did, but a lot worse? Now, am I saying Wesley's a good person for admitting he messed up? No, I still consider that man a monster. What about Rosie Girl? Well, if it's ultimately revealed that when she was hacked from point A to point B does not correlate with the DMs in question, then she's hiding behind an excuse. He, she, they, it don't fucking matter. They're hiding behind an excuse regardless. That's the whole point I'm trying to make. Now, with that being said, Mr. Coconut, if you're still here, have you gotten a DM in regard to the whole situation with Grande? Because let me tell you guys, I've known Grande for a little over a year now. So yeah, finally I knew you would be able to hear to speak on Rosie now finally. Hey, I'll say wait, I'm trying not to mess up names here. Hello, Ole, how you doing today? No. I'm talking about like that thing that they were something was going on in the chat there. Something apparently was going on in the live chat that I couldn't see because the messages were already taken down as soon as he was talking to there. But yeah, I've seen the community post. Did something happen while I was away or something? I have my things on. Let me see. Did something happen while I was away? Because I couldn't. Let me see. Hold on a second. Oh crap, this is gonna be bad. Some alleged Grande said the N-word. Because the last thing that I've seen something involving Grande. Would you fucking stop, Apple ID? Jesus. The last thing I've seen of Grande was the last thing of community posts not revolving around, special announcements here. Like the last thing I've seen from him was the members only poll of what to play, what he's going to play on a certain day, as well as the fact that he's also announced that he's doing a members only Q&A. Then there was another poll, another poll about what games he preferred. But the last full-on announcement that I've seen from him was that of how people were shouting him out on their streams and how he's basically going against that, right? So, but I don't think I've heard anything from Grande about it, if I'm being honest with you. Hmm. Where? Uh. Oh, there it is. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. That's weird. But Grande. You know what? That just reminded me of something that actually happened some time ago. Alright? So, let's see here. So, okay, so the whole thing, if that with that allegation, that just reminded me of something that I remember happening in a community that I support, but I'm no longer really involved in that much nowadays. Let me give you guys a little story. This is going to be an interesting story for everybody. I'm not going to say any names here because the incident in question happened last year, but the actual incident that was involved in the situation that happened last year, if not the year before, was from 2 years previously. Okay? But I knew this person because I first met this person when I was playing WWE 2. He says 2K, I think it was like 2K16, but he thinks it was probably 2K17. But anyway, um, so what happened was, something came out last year, if not the year before, where he was in a group where he was sharing some where he was in a group chat with a number of people, and one of the things that came up was a conversation involving an opinion that uh he that in some ways, like, it was a conversation about something. He shared his opinion that he had at the time, which he says he no longer has. But then 2 years after it happened, and I don't know how, and I don't know who, I don't know how, and I don't know why, but somebody outside of the group chat in question came out and said, well, this certain incident happened. But what happened basically was he shared an opinion that so many people seen as racist, even though he said when he apologized publicly about it, when he made a statement and publicly apologized uh for that situation. He said he used to have that ideology, but he no longer does. And that caused a lot of people to go against this person, and it caused some people to defend him. I, for the reasons that I will state here in a moment, I, for one, actually sided with him for the most part. While I did tell him face to face that opinion, that which he had, was a very bad opinion. At the same time, it was from 2 years ago when he shared that opinion. To me, even the most heartless, ballless, gutless people can change. That's why I don't ever believe anybody that says, well, I will always, or I will never, or that person always will be, or that person will never be. I never believe in comments like that, because I do believe that people, if they have the passion, the drive, the commitment, the just to change, as long as they have that passion, the heart, the drive, the passion, the determination, and the mentality to change their ways. So Forrest is going to say I defended him mostly because I agree. No. No. His opinion was something that I too disagreed with. When I found out what the opinion he shared was, I told him straight up I did not agree with that opinion. But I did tell him, dude, it was 2 years ago. I'm not going to hold that. I would not hold a black cloud over a person's head, especially if I'm seeing that they've actually made that commitment to make change. That being said, it should also be duly noted that a person can change. It is going to be very hard to make a change, but it is very easy to go back to your old ways. But the thing is, this person in question is actually is just started becoming a professional wrestler. So he was very scared, like in the event that he was a bit of a mainstream wrestler, not like the most popular guy of modern times, but more like just somebody who's on the more mainstream wrestling shows like WWE, TNA, AEW, shows like that. He was very scared to see what would happen if that kind of thing was leaked out again, but during his tenure as an actual professional wrestler, instead of pretending to be a character in a pretending to be a wrestler in a video game. And I don't know if I said anything to him about that, but I remember we did have a few discussions, but I was getting so irritated with people at the time because the one that really irked me was one guy where he was kicked out of a group chat, and this one dude was saying something like, "Well, hey, at least I don't have to work with him anymore, haha." And I'm like, dude, like, what does this have to do with the Grande situation? If that's what he did, it's unacceptable. The reason why is because the fact that people were accusing him of saying the N-word is because that reminded me of a situation where a friend of mine used to have the belief that saying the N-word shouldn't really matter based on your race. He did have that mentality. But as I said, he said he has since changed his mentality on that and has learned that was not the best opinion he has ever had, and he has changed his opinion on that since then. That's according to this friend of mine. Now, with that being said, I don't know if Grande has done it. He hasn't said anything about it, and I've tried looking up videos on YouTube because I'm pretty sure if he did do it, at least one person would have said something about it to begin with. But I've yet to see somebody even talk about it. But if he did do it, that's going to be a bit of a hard pill for me, and I'm pretty sure a good number of people that have known him to swallow. Because like I said, I've known this man for a little bit over a year now, and I'm talking about Grande. I've known this man for a little over a year now. If I find out, like legitimately find out that he did do this, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm really gonna be pissed. I don't want to confront him right now because it is late in the night. Currently, it's like, what time is it? Oh wait, it's since like 11:30. I'm pretty sure by now he's either gone to bed or he's getting close to going to bed. But I'm not sure how to feel about that right now because I haven't seen anything that could confirm nor deny that he did do it. Because like what I said with Rosie Girl, that somebody could have pretended to be him, somebody could have. Well, I don't know if he would have hacked. Somebody would have hacked his account because I'm pretty sure he would have said something by now, if that was the case. But it could have. But the age-old explanations could have been where where somebody was pretending to be him, and yes, that can happen on the internet. I'm pretty sure he wasn't. I'm pretty sure he's not hacked. Otherwise, he would have said something by now on any of the social medias that he has that are that would not have been hacked at the time. And also, of course, the explanation that he did do it. Now, like I said, I don't have any evidence to support the claim that he did do what he did. If he did do it, the other one was how do you justify the continued hate speech from Rosie in multiple streams? Something. Well, okay. See, in this situation, remember that Rosie Girl, right now with this one, has been shown to have allegedly sent DMs to minors by doing roleplay with them in the most sexualized manner possible. Now, what she's done in the past pales in comparison to this situation right here. This whole situation with her apparently sending very detailed, very sexually detailed DMs to minors is a whole different ball game to her trolling people in the ways that Rosie has trolled people, regardless of how. This is a whole different ball game, and it's a much more serious matter than anything else that Rosie has done in the past. Because all those things are nothing compared to being accused of being a pedophile. Let's just be honest here. Because being labeled as a pedophile is career suicide. Being labeled as a rapist is career suicide. To be labeled an abuser of some kind is career suicide. If you commit any kind of violent act and the people find out about it, that is career suicide. I mean, look at all the number of people who have been revealed to have done very messed up things to other people, regardless of gender or ethnicity. Think about that. And I'm mainly thinking of Bill Cosby here when I say that. But the moral of the story is, to me personally, what Rosie Girl did in the past is nothing compared to this allegation of being a pedophile. I understand, Forrest, but all I'm saying is if you and Azalea and they're all about positivity and being a friendly family, he literally pisses out kids that find the channel through you guys. That's abuse, is it not? Let's see here. Hold on, let me read this again. The stand was what I'm saying is if you guys honestly, I wouldn't know how people would know Rosie Girl through me because up until my community post, I never mentioned anything about Rosie Girl ever. never in my life, up until that community post as well as this stream, have I ever brought up Rosie Girl. Because, for me personally, Rosie Girl doing what they've done in the past, to me, wasn't, while they were in their own way bad, to me personally, they weren't really worth talking about. But this kind of is, because this is involving the safety of kids, which is the most important thing to me, especially considering how, well, not you, apologies, but for example, Mod of Azalea, so coming from then there's Trevor, and now even, wait, what? Hold on. I'm getting confused here. Not you, apologies, but for example, Mod of Azalea, you see where I'm coming from. Then there's Trevor, and now even Grande. I'm kind of confused on what you're talking about. I am actually confused on what you're talking about here. Because you talk about Mod of Azalea, you see where I'm coming from, and there's Trevor, and now even Grande. What are you... She was mods for all three. Was she? I know that I know that Trevor and Grande were, I know Trevor and Grande were mods for Azalea. I don't really know about Rosie Girl because it's been a while since she last appeared on one of Azalea's streams, so I would probably have to look back and see. But I'm not sure. She probably was, but I'm not sure. But I do know that Trevor and Grande both are about positivity and being friendly. I am all about positivity, but I will say, because of the games that I have streamed in the past, yeah, of all the streams that I've made in the past recently, like Grand Theft Auto, Tomb Raider, The Last of Us, The Walking Dead, those are not kid-friendly games. So I am by no means kid-friendly. But I do try to promote positivity as well as safety in my streams, because that is the number one most important thing for me. Yeah, because to me personally, and I was saying this when I made that, well, Coconut, to be fair, you probably didn't know about a number of things that, like, yeah, you've heard a number of the things that you've done. Or not you, my bad. That Rosie has done. Sorry. Um. So I would, but hey, you know what? Honestly, that shouldn't really do. That you, but this is where he is a person, not just playing for a game. GTA, these are real kids, real people. Oh, I know. That's why I've been saying from the very beginning when I talked about this. I don't know when I first talked about this, but I do remember talking about internet safety. That, adults need to be safe. They have to protect themselves, and kids have to watch what they say or do with other people. Because I know about internet safety. I've seen so many things happen. I have seen kids that have been driven to suicide because of, well, I haven't seen it, but I've heard of kids who are driven to suicide because of adults making the kids' life a living hell regardless of how. I've seen adults who um who were caught with some situation with younger people who are adults now but were involved in something, who accused the adult of doing something back when they were a minor, when it wasn't entirely true. And I've seen things where it just goes crazy. And in case anybody's wondering about the second thing that I've said, I won't say this much about it. I remember a couple of years back, Dan from Game Grumps was accused of something by a person who is an adult now, but he was accused of doing some things with her or to her or whatever when she was a minor. So basically, she accused him of grooming her. But I and so many other people looked at her. I read her story. I looked at the pictures that they took, and they sent as proof of what she was saying. But I do mean I looked at everything. I've studied all the pictures that were sent in this story from this person, and it was not adding up to me at all. So I tried to ask questions about it. Nobody really said nothing about it. So I was like, to me, it was like she was just seeking attention, which is something that can happen. Some people just want to seek attention just because they can. They either want to seek attention or they just want to make a person's life a living hell and get them involved in this sort of thing. It's happened before in the past, but it doesn't happen every time. At the same time, there are adults that do pedophilia, that do pedophilish acts, or they do or they do groom children, which both ways, which in that regard, if whether it's grooming or yeah, I know that. I know that. Not all attention is good attention. I knew that. But my point is, there are people who will come up, will of course have their story be told, and then they want to let their experiences with a certain individual out. But then you're going to have those other people on this that are quote unquote on the same side as the person with this actual story, and they're going to be saying a false story against whether it's the same person or someone else. But then they're going to come out later, and eventually they come out and say, well, I lied. This story wasn't true, it was all fiction. And yes, that actually has that second thing has actually happened before. More than once, actually. I think of one time in my head, but I'm pretty sure it's happened more than once over the years. And it goes with the whole thing that I hate about gender bias. And this is just coming up in my head, so bear with me as I say this. But I hate gender bias because it's like people think that a guy cannot be raped, that a guy is not allowed to show emotion, otherwise he's weak, and a guy is a pussy if he doesn't go for that pussy. If a woman makes sexual advances towards him, or any other kind of advances toward him, and if he chickens out, they call him a pussy because he doesn't want any of that pussy. Now, on the woman's side of things, the big thing that I hate is how if a guy, and I'm saying this for the last bit specifically, if a guy were to make any kind of advances toward a woman, unwanted advances, regardless of how, he would be called a rapist right then and there. Because she said no, but he didn't listen. But when he says no, he's a chicken shit because he didn't want to get that pussy. That's why I just don't like the biases that I have to see all the time. And that's why so many people question it. Is it true that a guy is not a man is not a man if this happens, or if a woman is not a woman if this happens, if this does or does not happen. It just boggles my mind that we are living in a world full of gender biases to that point to where it's like people actually believe some of these gender bias theories are true. And then they're just now realizing, is it though? That's why I sometimes hate. That's why I sometimes hate uh, just some people that want to play that type of game. Or even just toy with people's emotions to begin with just to prove some damn point. In this situation with Rosie Girl, there are potential explanations to what happened, but there's a few problems with some of these. First and foremost, if somebody was to pretend to be Rosie Girl, the one thing that they would not be able to do would be to exactly duplicate her nickname because, of course, the Discord server will tell you the username, then the four-digit number that comes after that. Now, if she was hacked, if Rosie Girl was hacked, we have yet to know from what day to what day was Rosie hacked. Until Rosie comes up with that, I'm not buying that story. And I kind of refuse to believe that somebody would pretend to be an already made trouble. Well, actually, that's probably the second most plausible thing out of it all. Because when somebody makes enough enemies or has enough people that hate the person, then odds are one of them is bound to make an account of that person just to make that person look bad. Now, am I saying this as a reason why what happened? No. They're all just theories. I have no proof to determine that what I'm saying is the truth. So that's the thing there. The Grande Gamer deleted his channel. Okay, this is getting ridiculous about Grande. I'm starting to not really think of that. Because I'm starting to not really think, okay, for the benefit of the doubt, he was hacked fine. I still think it should be on YouTube with all the hateful speech to multiple people over the years that's not hacked. Hateful speech, of course, if it's against YouTube's terms of service, then the only reason why Rosie Girl is still on is because apparently that kind of thing would be a fake user. I had a feeling. But anyway, there are several different phases of hate speech. To me, there's the low tier hate speech where they're just hating on somebody for some reason. But then you have what I call the high the high tier, the top tier hate speech, which is basically everything under the sun, from racist hate speech to gender biased hate speech to just basically the type of hate speech that most communities would not allow to be said. Like, like, the kind I'm thinking of here. The kind that I've said that I would not allow on my channel. Oh, and then you have drama hate speech. In which case, people are just going to buy one side of the story, but they're not going to listen to the other side of the story, but they're going to just show hate toward that person because they instantly believe this one person instead of hearing what the other person has to say. Now, as far as Rosie goes, right now at this moment in time, just to save my own ass. Because it's really what it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is what I'm doing. I am saving my own ass. I'm not going to allow Rosie Girl on this channel, in these chats, in this, on the, in the live stream chats, until Rosie can prove for a fact, without any reasonable doubt, that the person behind Rosie Girl, the actual Rosie Girl account, had nothing to do with the situation at hand. And I do mean proof, and I do mean to prove beyond any reasonable doubt. That means he's literally doing hate raids to others. So no matter the level or tiers of hate that you describe, it doesn't matter whether it's severe or not. Hate speech is hate speech. True, but I feel like the level of hate speech is what's most important. Here's why I say that. It is more important because YouTube, I feel like, are buckling down. What exactly, Forrest? You literally just said you wouldn't let Rosie on, which is in fact you believe that this is unacceptable. Okay, if I could explain what I'm saying here. Just give me a second here. Alright. As I've said, if you look at my rules, you know that I don't allow any kind of racist, homophobic, uh, bigotry, any kind of bigotry, any kind of racism, sexism, homophobic kind of comments like that. That kind of hate speech is not allowed. Or if you're doing a hate raid, first of all, why would you be doing that? Because it's actually doing the exact opposite of what you want to do. Even if you're trying to get people to end their streams immediately, in my case, it's not going to happen if anybody ever tried to do that. But yeah. But when it's like the real small kind of hate speech, YouTube is probably not going to do anything. Like if it doesn't border on the kind of hate speech I just talked about, I could say get the hell out of here. But YouTube itself is probably not going to care because it's not involving the real big bad words used in hate speech. Like, just name calling somebody is not, it could be considered hate speech, but YouTube's not going to do anything unless somebody flags your video because how dare you talk about this. I talked about somebody in this manner because, you know, nowadays a good number of people's feelings just get hurt and instantly they just like, okay, time to put a strike on this. Yeah. But yeah, personally for me, I don't condone hate speech. Because I was born and raised to treat others how they want to be treated. And even then, I'm not going to stoop to the level of hate speech. I will say when I said Wesley was a monster, that could be interpreted as hate speech. But at the same time, I don't consider somebody who does that like a man brought to light because Rosie is not a super channel, which is why they should be informed. That's the whole problem. That's the whole thing, though. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that's the case because usually they do that with the big channels. YouTube and Twitch would only act like that toward the big channels, which honestly does kind of remind me. Hold on a second here. See, currently Rosie Girl has 8.06 thousand subscribers. So yeah, I wouldn't really call that a quote unquote big YouTuber. I would say that's like a YouTuber with a good amount of a fan base behind the person. But I wouldn't really call it like popular beyond all belief. Hmm. But I'm looking at the thing involving Grande, and I still don't see anything about that. If I'm being honest with you, I still don't see anything about him. But anyway, um, but anyway, press a button by the way on that. So you see, I'm just saying YouTube doesn't care. It's not really true because they don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying that YouTube probably does know, but it depends on how many subscribers the person has. Because usually they either give them a slap on the wrist or they actually punish them for what they've said or done, depending on how bad what the situation in question was. Now, as far as Rosie Girl is concerned, like I said, I'm sticking by my decision in that unless the proof of now, like, because honestly, Rosie Girl has never been in my streams. Rosie Girl has never really commented on my videos, even in the live stream chats. So that's why while I have made my statement known about how I feel in regard to the whole situation with Rosie Girl, at the same time, I've never really had interactions with the person unless it was outside of my own streams. Because I have seen Rosie Girl a few times in other streams, mainly playing with the soundboard. Mainly for the last number of months playing with the soundboard. But other than that, I didn't really have it up until this. I didn't really have an issue with her. Yes, I knew of the situations that Roosevelt, a few of the situations Roosevelt was involved in, but to me, they weren't really big enough for me to talk about them. But even then, I wasn't really a big YouTuber back then when it happened. So even if I would have made a statement on the situation, it probably would have done nothing for me. Like, it would not have spread awareness as much as I would have loved for it to have spread awareness. But now, because I'm at what 620 some subscribers now, like I know I'm almost at 630 subscribers at this point in time. Um, but with someone like me, YouTube would probably buckle down hard on me just because I have no way to defend myself without YouTube fucking it up for me if I ever did anything wrong on the platform. And I mean anything that would go against terms of service. Because generally they're going to believe the big company over the small content creator. Kind of makes me want to try to prove that point with What Remains of Edith Finch, if I'm being honest with you in that regard. But anyway, so, the voice concept, so now you gotta be a voice, you know. I try to, but at the same time, you have to understand it does take time for me to find the words to talk about something. Like in this case, I have found my words I wanted to talk about in regard to the whole thing with Rosie Girl. And I've talked about a little bit of Leslie as well. But I'm not going to bring any attention to the whole thing with Grande because, like I said, I don't know for a fact if that is true or not. But if it is true, I will. I would honestly be a bit heartbroken because, like I said, I've known Grande for about a year now, and even up to this point, he is one of the coolest people I've ever met. Ever. Now, I will honestly be surprised if he or anybody else that knows him is watching this video and then trying to tell me their 2 cents on that whole ordeal to begin with. But at the end of the day, I've said my piece, and that's the big thing for me, because I'd rather say my piece and get it over with, if not just to say it right off the bat, over trying to keep it hidden inside of me and, just not saying anything until the casket just buzzes, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm very careful with what I talk about, how I talk about what I'm talking about, as well as when, where, and how I talk about what I talk about. Now, with that said, do I really care about Roseville at this point? No, not really. Do I, what the hell? Oh, something else. Alright. Do I, feel sorry for... Damn it, I lost my train of thought. The moral of the story is, just think about what you say or do before you actually say and or do it. Because the last thing, I could listen to a Forest podcast all day. You know what, Coconut? I'll be honest with you. We're going to make it a little bit positive here. I honestly was thinking about doing like a podcast thing. The only problem is I wouldn't know who to do it with, because my schedule, my workplace schedule, is literally all over the place. Smart words. Think before you act. Yeah. Think before you say or do. And I've said, and I cannot tell you how many times I've said that to somebody. What does I do? You need to do that. I get it, but if content creators such as yourself only speak and say your piece, as you say, nothing really gets done unless action takes place. Words on deaf ears and that. You're right. That is actually a true statement. Actions do speak louder than words. You are absolutely correct. But, let's see here. Then those who really suffer are the viewers and the victims. Well, more the victims than the viewers. Because the victims have to think about that, will be thinking about that situation for days, weeks, months, maybe even years to come. For the rest of their lives, even. At the same time, the viewers are going to be heartbroken because they thought the person they were watching was somebody that they didn't think would do such a thing. So in their own way, they're feeling hurt. So in two different ways, both groups of people are feeling hurt. Let's see here. The only consistent thing about my schedule is getting off at 6 p.m. every Friday and Saturday. Dude, my consistent schedule is that I have at least 1 to 2 days off every time I have something off. All the time. Every time recently. I've yet to have even a 3-day... Well, actually, I think I did have a 3-day... 3-day weekend at one point earlier this year, but I can't remember when it was. But anyway, so here's hold on, right? But in the sense that the viewers don't get the content of positivity and escapism they want, they only get creators speaking their piece and nothing gets done. You're actually got a good point here, and that leads to what I was going to say. The way I look at it. Of course, I can't control anybody, but I do think if anybody believes that Rosie Girl is guilty of, doing these kind of acts as well as, being hateful toward other people, then go and report her. If for some reason you don't believe so, I honestly would like to know why, because because there are things that I just would like to know a little bit more as to why people wouldn't really, in this case, why somebody wouldn't think that Rosie Girl was a pedophile. But that's the, but that's just, I'm losing my train of thought here. I'm getting a little bit tired. It is 12 o'clock right now, and I am getting kind of tired. So I will end, so I'm going to end the stream now, but I will say this much. As far as Rosie Girl is concerned, I haven't really interacted with the person behind the account up at this point ever since I last seen them in one of the streams that I was watching at the time a few months back. As far as Grande goes, I don't know if he's going to be talking about this or not tomorrow. The whole, not the Rosie Girl situation, but the situation that he apparently said the N word. I think, it would be best if we try to, see about that a little bit before we jump to conclusions. And for the people who have even for a little bit stuck around to hear myself talk, I appreciate it. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and end things here. So, yeah, because I'm getting tired, I'm trying to open my eyes, and sometimes I can, other times I can't. But yeah, so as far as I'm concerned, I do hope that Rosie Girl gets the punishment she deserves if she is 100% beyond all reasonable doubt guilty of committing the acts in question on that. Nonetheless, let me first speak to as it's a start. Thank you, Ole. But yeah, the way I see it, if you feel like Rosie Girl knew what she was doing, as well as knowing that, or that you feel that she's being guilty on that, then I would say to report her. But if you feel like she's not guilty of anything, of course I can't control everybody and say to. I'm not going to tell everybody to report her or not, because ultimately I know I'm not going to convince every single person out there to report Rosie Girl. That's why I'm not going to say it. But it is up to the individual to do so or not. I will say that much. I recommend it even. Because usually people like the people that are accused of being a pedophile that ultimately aren't found guilty of it are generally tend to happen. But yeah. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm starting to feel a little bit tired. I'm gonna go ahead and head to bed. I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, this is Forrest Walpole signing off.